Hey, welcome to week 2. Glad to see you made it through week 1. Those of you who are still here. I think we lost 1 or 2 people, but I'm going to try to keep the rest of you here. It was interesting to read all of your posts in the discussion forum. I see we've got a lot of early education majors, which is great. Really happy about that. Awful lot of you going off to Rochester College or Marygrove or OU. That's good. I'm glad you're all going on for your 4 years. Some of you already have degrees, which is pretty amazing. Anyway, for week 2 coming up here now, you're going to be reading portions of the Iliad. I decided not to, your book has all of the Odyssey. I decided not to make you do that. I'd like to have had the entire Iliad, but we don't. So when you're reading the Iliad, please focus on Achilles' rage. And how is this a hero's journey? It's different from Gilgamesh's hero's journey, especially thinking about the refusal of the call or the acceptance of the call. So focus on his rage. Look at why does Hector die. Now, unfortunately, I don't know why they do this in the book. That section is summarized. But Hector dies, Achilles' best friend. And why does he die? What's he wearing when he dies? It's kind of important. All right? And this goes to the hero's journey and the call. Also, again, with Gilgamesh, we have the death issue. Achilles has to deal with death. How does Achilles end up dealing with death and his own mortality? So that's what I want you to focus on when you're reading the Iliad, or to just keep in mind, not necessarily focus on. Now, with Gilgamesh, now that all of you have read it, you all read it, right? You didn't just find the answers for the quizzes. Anyway, there's a real common theme in, I think, a lot of Western literature, maybe in world literature in total, is that of duality. And Enkidu and Gilgamesh represent that, especially when we first meet Enkidu. Enkidu is that he's the uncivilized wild man, while Gilgamesh represents the civilized, somewhat civilized man. And it's the dual perspective. Shakespeare deals with this a great deal. A lot of his settings of his plays, and this is much later in the 1600s, or late 1500s, early 1600s, his plays are set part of the time in like a civilized area, and then you go to a wilder area. Or a lot of times people have come from a civilized area into a wild. And it's the human nature. People are like this. We have this duality to us. All right? Look again at why Enkidu actually has to die. What is it that brought that about? It's Gilgamesh's fault, kind of, that his friend has died. Because of his hubris. Look that word up. H-U-B-R-I-S, hubris. All right, so it's that death that then sets Gilgamesh on his journey. And this is what we will find in these heroes' journeys, is that there is a lot of times it's necessary to deal with death. Because this is something that you have to do as you become a mature adult. You can become an adult without dealing with it, but in order to be a mature adult, to be able to look at life, you have to realize you're going to die. And you need to take that into account when you make decisions. You need to become to peace with that as well, because you're not going to stop it. I don't care who you are, how much money you have, you're going to die. All right? And so this happens with a lot of heroes' journey. All right, also, what happened with the amulets? Gilgamesh smashes them. Come on, Gilgamesh. And again, what's this represented about? He hasn't matured yet. He needs those amulets. There's almost a chance he isn't going to be able to cross the water without them. Unfortunately for him, he's able to overcome that. But again, not acting. And then he actually loses the plant that he goes for. He gets the plant that is going to give him eternal life, that is going to give his tribe eternal life, but loses it to the snake. Right? And the snake again. And so what does he actually come back with? He comes back with his own being more mature, and now he can become the great king that he becomes, where now he's more concerned about his people instead of himself and his own mortality. And knowing, I think, that he has his own mortality, it causes him, or results in his being aware of the fact that he needs to do something with his life. And it needs to be something that benefits other people. Anyway, that's my take on it. All right, now, like I said, the discussion forums were very good. However, in the instructions this week, what I would like you to have you do is everyone make their initial post by Wednesday. Wait until after Wednesday midnight to make your first reply. I want to try to get more of a conversation going with this one because we're comparing two of the works of literature. So make the first reply on Thursday or Friday, but before midnight on Friday, and then make the second reply on Saturday or Sunday. All right, this way hopefully everyone gets into the conversation and you've got a chance to maybe look at a few more initial posts before making yours. Also, somebody had mentioned about it, taking a class where there was way too much work. I'm well aware of this. Unfortunately, you're taking this class in 8 weeks instead of 16, so each week you're doing twice the work that somebody in my on-ground 16-week class would do. And I really can't lighten the load that much more for you just because it's an 8-week class. You're still getting the same credits that somebody who has to do all that reading in a 16-week class has to do. Now, I have cut a few things out where I felt like we wouldn't lose anything. And I did drop one of the shorter papers because I don't feel in an 8-week class that you can do 2 short papers and do a good job on a long research paper. So I would do that for any class. All right, so please be aware of that. Now, there's extra credit. I'm holding office hours, and nobody ever shows up on ground in office hours either, or hardly anyone. I will give you extra credit, 2 extra credit points on your short paper if you show up Tuesday or next week for just to introduce yourself. So I've got a face that goes with a name, and it also lets me see if these Google Hangouts are working. Also, I'll be assigning next week times for you to come in for the Google Hangout class session. Now that's not part of your grade, and so I really can't make you do that, or make you. I can't ask you to do that and require it. I would like you to show up for those classes though, so we can actually try to have some real interaction between the class face to face through a Google Hangout. So what I'd like you to do is show up for that when I assign it to you, and I'll give you 2 extra credit points on the research paper. All right, it's not part of your grade. All right, I think that pretty well takes care of everything. Have a good time this week. The Iliad's kind of fun. There's lots of violence. There's actually a chase scene. It's kind of a humorous chase scene. So they're not driving Firebirds or Mustangs or Camaros, but there's a chase scene. Anyway, please keep up with everything. I'll be sending out emails every once in a while if I think anyone's falling behind. I want to make sure that you stick with this and that you're doing your time management well. All right, it's a lot more difficult actually to do an online class than an on-ground because you're not having to show up at a certain time. Anyway, have a good time. Enjoy the week. See you next week.